Welcome back, everybody. While we're taking a bit of a break waiting for new parts to arrive, and with the block fully torn apart, it was time to start taking measurements and find out if any of these parts needed attention at the machine shop. After taking measurements of the block, the cylinder heads for warpage, cylinder bore diameter and roundness, crankshaft journals, and connecting rods, I'm happy to report that all are within specifications. The cylinder head I'm leaving alone, with the piston rings, since the leak down test proved that these parts were all in good shape. The only work on the block to do is to hone the cylinders and a little bit of cleaning. We are now at the point at which we have reached the limit of our teardown, which, as you can see, has left many parts scattered about the garage. Parts here, parts there, parts everywhere. Oh boy, just a reminder of the work ahead. After consulting with the owner, the parts ordered for the rebuild are as follows: ARP studs, no more buying torque shield bolts, and a great option for future increased boost levels. Basic gasket and seal kit, a new OEM crankshaft, new rods and main bearings, new washers for case bolts and case O-rings, new O-rings for oil pump. Now, as the new parts arrive, we'll begin the challenge of reassembling the motor to make the car complete once again. So let's get started. As you can see, their cylinder walls still have a lot of the original cross hatching in it. However, on some of the wear points on the cylinder, you can see that they've diminished significantly. So I'm going to go ahead and hone these things anyway. The purpose of honing cylinders is for even oil distribution, and then also to retain oil up on the cylinder walls while the car is parked. I like to spread a little bit of WD-4 down it before going through the process. And then the idea is to spin it and move it up and down at such a rate in which you get about a 45-degree angle. After just a couple minutes of honing, you can see that the cylinder walls have kind of changed. You can see all the new hash marks in there. Well, I took both halves of the block outside and then hit it with some brake clean and got the majority of the dirt off. But then when you bring it back in, what we need to do is pay special attention to any of the mating surfaces. And then also get the old bearings out. These are the main bearings here. You can just kind of rotate them out like this. And then the thrust bearing, you're gonna have to just lift out straight. And with the mating surfaces, what I like to do is take a solvent. I'm using lighter fluid in this case here, but I've already kind of scraped it and gotten all the majority of the junk off, but there's still residue and dirt on here. And of course this needs to be perfectly clean before you sandwich the thing back together. Otherwise the RTV won't do its job. I like to take a clean towel like this, put a little bit of solvent on it, and then just go across all the mating surfaces. And then I keep doing that until this doesn't happen, to where it's clean. So let's see, I'll go over the same area here. See, I'm still getting stuff here. So I go over this pretty thoroughly and make sure that I get everything off. Also, with these block halves, these parts here in between the cylinders is also a sealing surface as well. Those big long bolts that I showed you earlier, that's what goes through these parts here. And if these don't seal real well, you could potentially have some oil leakage out through those bolts. So real important to get these surfaces as well. Basically anything that's flat on the top, clean up real well. Also where the O-rings go. There's 4 O-rings. There's 3 small ones here and 1 large one here. This is for coolant. So make sure that those are all perfectly clean before you apply RTV. When this block is put together at the factory, it uses RTV as well. And so what happens is when the two halves get sandwiched together, some of the RTV squeezes out and along the edges here. You can see there's a little bit right here. So I think it's real important to go along the sides here and get all that. That way it'll prevent it from falling in to the oil later on and potentially plugging up one of the oil galleries. So just make sure everything is clean and totally free of debris. And while you're cleaning this, this is the part that mates to the other half of the block, but also pay attention to the other surfaces that have to seal up perfect. I mean, you got the head that fits over onto this side here. Let's see, and then right behind where the flywheel resides, you got an oil separator plate here. Of course, the rear main seal is here. That needs to be cleaned up. This one's not as important. This is where it mounts up against the bell housing on the transmission, but still make sure it's free of any large debris. And then on this side, let's see, side over here, you got the oil pan. And let's see, the oil pump is right here. So here's another surface that you want to make sure it's clean. So, you know, there's 4 or 5 different surfaces here that you need to make sure that's cleaned up really well before you start putting things back together. Yeah, this step of cleaning the block up, it's actually fairly time consuming, not a very fun job. I think this is my least favorite thing of the whole motor rebuild. But you get it right, it'll definitely pay off in the long run. Now, once I get this block entirely clean, I'll go ahead and hit it with some air, and I'll shoot up and down the little nooks and crannies and crevices and whatnot, just to make sure that it's free of all debris. One thing to note here is I screwed up here. We ordered the wrong main bearing set. As you can see here, this bearing set here is for the thrust bearing to be in position number 3. And then if you look at the block here, this is the front of the motor over here. You got 1, 2, 3. So some of these EJ motors have the thrust bearing here. On this particular one, it's on 5. So somewhere along the line, Subaru changed it. I don't know why. But if you get the thrust bearing for 3, it's not going to fit on number 5. It's a little bit thicker. And to look at the difference, you can see right here. The difference is this bearing. This is the one that's for 3. Is a little bit thinner than the one for number 5. Well, at this point, the gasket kit that we got comes with new valve stem seals, and so I'll probably go ahead and remove the valves and then replace those. But I also want to take a look and see what the underside of the valves look like and see if they need cleaning. So far, this motor's been in pretty darn good shape, so I kind of suspect everything's going to look good. But we'll take a look here. I'll pull these little keepers off the magnet and then let the spring come out. Okay, valve spring out, and then let's take a look at the valve and see what it looks like. This here is one of the exhaust valves. Boy, even that looks really good. I don't know if it's even worth cleaning them up. I guess since I have them out, I guess I will clean them up. But this whole motor looks like it's just in really good shape. And the valve stem seals down there, so those are easy to pull off and then replace. So I might as well do it. And I got the time, since we're waiting for main bearings again. We'll go ahead and spend our extra time just dealing with the heads. A very easy way to clean these valves up is just to attach it to the end of a drill and a Scotch-Brite pad, and then just spin it. The underside of it. Okay, it looks like most of the carbon has been removed. Valve looks a lot cleaner. Well, with all the valves removed from the left side head, we can go ahead and start pulling the valve stem seals. And we can take a Scotch-Brite pad and get some of these carbon deposits off the top of the cylinder head. When you scrape gasket material off the heads, do it in the vertical position, so that way when material comes off, that it falls down and not into the ports here and contaminate the motor. Before cleaning up the heads, be sure to get these spring perches here out. I just take a magnet around there and then just gently lift it out. And before cleaning up the heads, good idea to take the cam position sensor off so it doesn't get damaged. Well, now we have all the valves out of the heads, and if you pull more than one valve out at any given time, I highly recommend getting a valve tray like this to keep things organized. It's very important that all these parts go back into the head where they came out, otherwise your valve clearances are going to be incorrect and you'll definitely have problems with the engine running properly. Well, after about another hour of scrubbing and cleaning using a brass brush, we got these heads pretty clean now. So we can start putting the things back together. All right, now that the heads have been fully cleaned up, we can start reassembly, and I'll start by using these spring perches here. And I like to put a little bit of oil on each of these before dropping them down in. Next, we can start installing the new valve stem seals. This particular adapter here is the 5.5 mm. And when installing these, good idea to put a little bit of oil on this before you push the valve stem seal onto it. Just lubricate it so you don't destroy the rubber. And once it's on there, just gently push down until you feel it click, and then lift out. And then just repeat the process for all 8 of them. Once you have them all installed, visually inspect them and make sure that they're all on nice and square and not at a weird angle or something. If so, it's not on or fully seated, and then readjust it if necessary. Next, we can start reinstalling the springs. This is the right head. This is the exhaust side, so this is RE1. So I made sure I pulled the right one. I like to lubricate both ends of the spring before setting it in here. And then the on top of the spring is the valve keeper. And then the valve can be pushed up from the bottom. And actually make sure that you oil the end of that too. You don't want to damage the rubber seal as you go through that new valve stem seal. There we go. It should slide real easy. There we go. Okay, now we can reinstall the valve spring compressor. This does not have to go on tight at all, just enough to hold it in place. Okay, then once that's on, we'll back this screw out, set it on top of the spring, like so. Then we can start running this in. And as you're winding this down, it's a good idea to put your hand on the bottom side of the valve here, feel the valve, make sure that it's not pushing the valve down. If it starts to push the valve down, then it's obviously not aligned perfect. Okay, and then you got the little keepers here. And what I find works best here is just to put a little bit of assembly lube on the tip of it. That way, when you push it onto the valve, it will stay. And I like to use a little magnet. These are kind of cone shaped, so the thick end goes near the top. So just kind of push it down there. Okay, I just spun the other one around. Push this one into place. Hold it in there. There we go. Okay, this does take a little bit of patience and finesse, but once you get it, there. Just go and back her off, and we got it. All right, it took a little doing, but we got them all in. On one side anyway. I just need to do the same on the other. So yeah, we finally got cleaned up. New valve stem seals are in. And as you can see, the bottom looks much cleaner. We've got rid of all the carbon deposits. So in the meantime, I'll go ahead and repeat this process on the other side. And I think we'll call it quits for this video. And next time we'll go ahead and resume with the block and putting that back together. So till then, see you next time.